This is Marketing Uncomplicated.
Today we're unpacking a topic that every founder wants, but most avoid because it feels mysterious, overwhelming, or reserved for big brands. It's PR. And to uncomplicate it, I've brought in someone who does not play by the old rules. KJ Blattenbauer is a powerhouse publicist and brand strategist with nearly 30 years turning overlooked experts into headline news. Her work has appeared in Forbes, Business Insider, Architectural Digest, and she's the author of How to Be a Media Darling, with a new book, Pitchworthy, coming January 2026. What I love about KJ is that she's not about visibility for visibility's sake. She's about visibility that moves the needle, and she teaches founders how to get there without big budgets, agencies, or overwhelm. If you've ever wondered how to go from being the best kept secret to being the go-to expert in your space, this episode is going to shift your entire approach to PR. KJ, it's so good to have you on the show. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me. That was quite the introduction.
So I'd like to take a step back and talk a little bit about the origin story with a little bit of depth, just to set the stage for everybody. You spent decades in PR, close to 30 years. What was the moment when you realized founders must understand visibility themselves, not just outsource it?
I think it probably took me a decade in the business, to be perfectly honest with you. I think we're so used to, if you're running a business, if you're doing things, you can just hire an expert, they'll take and run with things. And, you pay a professional, you want them to go do the professional things. I think after spending time in agency world and spending time in corporate America, I saw that so many people didn't really understand, one, what PR does, but also how it works. And so for me, when my friends started to open up their Etsy side hustles or start their own small businesses, and they kept coming to me for advice, I was like, we have a problem here. People don't know what this is. They don't know how they can use this basically free tool outside of paying for a publicist. They don't know how they can use it to move their business forward. And it is the easiest, most effective way to get attention for your business, but also visibility and validation for your expertise.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And like I said in the beginning, it almost feels that you need to have a huge budget to be able to get the reach that you need. And I think that has been traditional, and we'll get into, the traditional and the non-traditional aspect and the ways in which PR is moving. But what's the pattern you see over and over in founders who struggle with that visibility?
Well, I think they either think they need to be 6 or 7 figure earners, so they have the budget, or they just need to be bigger so they have the reason to have the spotlight on them, or they think they have to be doing something monumental. Like, you don't have to be curing cancer to need a publicist. You don't need to be making 6 or 7 earners. In fact, it's the $0 to the 6 or 7 figure earners that have the best stories. It's the author that's about to publish a book, not the author that's been on the bestseller list 50 times. You don't have to be famous or a celebrity. I think it's that people wait is the biggest issue that they have. They wait to be bigger. They wait for more money. But the truth is, PR is free. It's easier than social media once you know how it works. But also, you created your business. You wrote your book. You created a product or a service because there's a story behind it, because you saw a need and you filled that need. That is the greatest tool that you have, promoting what you're passionate about and why you're passionate about it, and talking about that with people. And that's the ease of public relations.
Yeah, and I think you totally nailed it in that sense, because it's not that it's complex. I think it's the way the media unfortunately has positioned and presented PR over the course of the years, in terms of not feeling fully approachable in that sense. And I love that you pick up on the waiting period. I think that there is a psychological element to that point, where we're constantly thinking we need to be more, we need to be at this position, we need to be at this stage before we enter into doing something that can actually supercharge that founder or supercharge that business into the landscape, and have people generate awareness. And to your point about social media, it can be more fruitful than social media, with all the algorithmic stuff that's happening on social media to really help elevate. And it's so much effort to get to that point.
Right. And I think social media is great. It's helped us discover people and artists and books the world over we would have never discovered otherwise, right? But it's also created all these vanity metrics that don't matter. There are so many small businesses that throw all their time, energy, and attention, authors too, and they're like, if I just have a bigger following, if I just go viral one time, and they blood, sweat, and tears it trying to post the right thing that people will get their attention. But people don't realize once you go viral, you might gain a couple hundred followers, maybe 1,000, but they're not the right followers. They're not going to buy your book. They're not going to buy your service. They're there to watch the spectacle. Now, if you put that same amount of energy into being on your local news, being in a publication focused on your industry or your area of expertise, that one article is going to generate at minimum at least a 35% increase in traffic to your website and your product page, but probably 200 to 400 sales if you're doing it correctly, if it's the right outlet and your messaging is in place. And I think that is the trade-off. You could have 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 followers, but if they're not buying anything, what is the point?
Yes, yes. Because the impressions don't really turn and convert into a sale unless you really have active people on your social media that are engaging. And the PR
Yeah.
actually gives you that opportunity to get in front of those that can potentially engage with you versus having stagnant followers on your page. Yeah. So
Exactly.
most founders start PR in the wrong place. I would say more than 90+%. What's the starting point that actually leads to traction, and why do so many people skip that? It's really the foundation.
Well, I personally think the foundation is having all your messaging and ducks in a row. If you don't know what your end goal is and you don't know how to properly communicate what you do across every platform, your social media, your website, your offerings page, any ads you're putting out there, if I don't Google you and find the same message consistently, so much so that I have it memorized by the time I'm done Googling you, you've already made your first misstep. That's a basic tenet of PR. And it takes at a minimum an hour of your time one week to make sure everything is consistent. And I think once you have that in place, you're ready to pitch, you're ready to promote, you're ready to have all the eyeballs on you. Even if you're not interested in public relations, you need it for if you're pitching your book to be published, the first thing an agent or a publisher is going to do is Google you. And if it's not consistent messaging across the board, they're not going to pick you up. If you're offering a product or service and a client Googles you and they don't know what you stand for, what you do, or what you're about because it's not consistent, you're not going to make that sale. So I think the basic tenet of PR is really the basic tenet of business. It's how do you want people to think and talk about you? That's going to be your launching pad, having a strong foundation.
Yeah. And really would you say that it goes down to really truly then understanding your mission, your vision, who your
Mhm.
ideal customer profile is, which unfortunately a lot of founders and businesses tend to think that they know who that ideal customer profile is and they just skip over it because maybe a tech startup is like, I created this because I'm the profile. I'm the person that is going to purchase this, and they need to remove themselves from it.
Right, right. And if you are the target person, right, then write down your demographics
Yeah.
down to the very specifics because look, I have a book coming out in January. I know exactly who needs to read that book, founders, small business owners. Secondarily, could anyone benefit from the book? Yes, but I'm not for everyone. Not everything is for everyone. Messaging for everyone is not going to resonate with anyone. So I'm going for small business owners. I'm going for startups. I'm going for the side hustlers, those sorts of people, authors, anyone that wants to be an expert in their industry, the 0 to 6 or 7 figure people. Those are my people. And where are those people? They might be reading business publications from time to time, but truly they're listening to podcasts. And so my mission PR wise, every single podcast I can get on between now and when my book launches because I want to reach where my people are. And I think being clear on who my target audience is and what messages I need to get out helps me pick the one platform so I don't have to be everywhere. I don't have to run myself ragged. I systematically have a plan for getting the message out there and promoting what I'm doing. And I think it's not revolutionary what I'm doing. Every single person in every industry can do the same thing, no matter what they're selling or offering or want to promote.
Yes. What about when we think of, the as seen in, right? Versus
Mhm.
to your point, getting on podcasts. So I'm talking about micro versus macro reach, right? So I think a lot of
Mhm.
folks are, they get dazzled by the, oh, I've been featured in Inc. magazine, for example, or
Yeah.
I was featured in Forbes magazine. Now, these are nice accolades, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, to have on your website, but they don't necessarily potentially generate any sales, but at the end of the day, to your point, getting on the podcast, going to events, speaking at, some of these smaller events that really dig into, you know, the mass that you're trying to reach versus the accolades. Do you think and believe that you need both? So the accolades of being in these big brands versus also, attending these events, having speaking gigs, going to, and being a guest on podcasts and so on and so forth. Tell me, the nice ebb and flow between those two.
Well, I think there's a
Yeah.
difference. There's where your customers are and there's where your ego is at.
Oh,
So
I love it.
half of those things are going to feed your ego, right? Like it's great. You know what? I want to speak on stages. I don't have any reason to want one or get one. Maybe I want an Emmy. Wouldn't one look cool back here on the shelf? Yes. There's no reason for my business for me to have an Emmy or why I would ever have one. But my ego thinks that would be
Yeah.
awesome. I think from a business standpoint, you the featured in, it can be macro, it can be micro. It's what moves your business forward. Where are your clients? Where are your customers? Appearing on Good Morning America would be great for my book sales. I don't know if it would move the needle for me for a public relations standpoint. No one really wants to hear about a publicist. But if you had a toy company or a business or a wonderful story, yes. If you are a local landscaping company, you're not, who cares if you're on the Today Show? That's not going to help you book people. But you're a story about you in your local newspaper, a story about you in your neighborhood magazine, a story about you on the local TV station, yeah, that's going to really move the needle. Unless you want a franchise, then I mean, go for Forbes, that sort of thing. So I think it's figuring out again where your target audience is and what your true end goal is for your business. That's going to make the difference on where you're featured in, seen in, that sort of thing.
Mm.
Everyone wants to be on Oprah when they come to me. That's the first thing they're like, I want to be on Oprah. And they don't realize Oprah doesn't have a show anymore.
Yeah.
Like she has her favorite things. She has a podcast. She talks to very few people in very specific niches on her podcast. Many of them are not business owners. They're other famous people. So if you want to be on Oprah, you kind of already have to be the famous person. But also, is your audience really paying any attention to Oprah?
Yeah.
I think it's the coming to grips with where are my people truly at? Who am I truly serving? What do I really want for my business? And that's going to help you figure out where you need to be very
Yeah.
quickly.
And that goes back to the conversation that we were having of building that foundational piece and really understanding who you are as a business and who you want to attract. So I love that response. Thank you. Um, you talk about visibility that moves the needle. How do you define that in your terms?
I think as business owners, we only have a certain amount of time, right? As an author, you only have a certain amount of time, right? Like you need to be writing, you need to be pitching your stuff. If you're a speaker or an expert in any industry, like your day is packed, you have things to do. And outside of business, you want to have a life, right? You don't need to waste your time being everywhere on every publication, chasing every media opportunity. You only need to be on the ones that are going to move the needle for you. Again, I'm probably not going to be pitching the Today Show for my book, but I know that the people who are going to buy my book are on podcasts. I'm pitching myself only to podcast. I am on a one woman mission podcast tour, morning, noon, and night. The ones that are relevant, that fit my demographic, where I know my people are listening, I'm going to be on those. I'm not going to be on probably a self-help podcast. I'm not going to be on something for real estate agents. It's just you need to know where to go. And visibility that doesn't move the needle is fluff and it's a waste of your time. And you could pay to be on all those featured women, top women, like I'm based in Dallas, Texas. I'm not going to do a pay for play media opportunity to be the top publicist in New York. It wouldn't make sense to me. That is not visibility for me. That is just, okay, that's an accolade I could put on my website, but it doesn't benefit me. It's not my demographic. It's not my area, even though I can serve anyone anywhere. Maybe they would buy the book, but it's truly not part of my goals. So for me, you need to focus again where your audience is. What's going to move the needle for your business is true third-party endorsement from a reputable media source where your people are.
Yeah, I really like how with every question you keep going back to the foundation of where your people are, where your customer is, who's going to buy from you, and really teaching the founder or the business owner to get out of their own way, which really ultimately is their ego, and what they know traditionally of PR. I love that you mentioned everyone that comes to me says they want to be on Oprah, right? And I think that that is just okay. Maybe you're asking them questions like, what is your, top sort of situation, right? Or, what is the top place that you want to be? And it's funny that, maybe they throw out Oprah. They're probably an e-commerce brand, or they have a product versus a service, and so on and so forth. But it's the embedment of what media has taught people to think of PR, and not going back to realizing that if you win local, you can win nationally, and that's how you grow at the end. And it's not just the accolades of, as I mentioned, being in Forbes, or, maybe making it to Oprah, or being on her favorite things, and so on and so forth. But it's really stepping out of, what is all of the sort of upper echelon of, who these magazines and who these people are, but really thinking about the mass and where you really connect. And I always go back, and this isn't a direct comparison, but if we think about when Target started to do partnerships with big designers to reach mass, they were giving high-end designers an opportunity to actually reach more people than just a small
Mm-hmm.
percentage of people who could afford their clothing, correct?
Right, right. And those collections were
They
fire.
were.
I miss them, and Target hasn't been the same
I
since.
know, I know. They need to step up that game.
Yeah. Bring it
I
back.
know,
Bring it
I
back.
know. I think I had a dress for over 10 years at one point, but the quality was amazing on some of them, and it was excellent.
Mhm.
And I'm sure that some of these designers made more sales in such a short period of time than they did in their duration of their career, with folks that could afford these high-end prices. Um,
Yeah.
if traditional publicity was about reach and modern visibility is about relevance, where do founders waste the most energy today?
Oh, I think they waste the most time spinning their wheels in their own head and waiting to get started, thinking they need to reach something. But I also just think in general, founders waste their most time on social media. And I'm not going to bash social media, but I think that we confuse social media with a huge promotional strategy that's going to change the game for us. I mean, we've touched on it, right? Like, you hire a social media person, you have someone on your team to do social media, or you're struggling yourself to do social media. It's so much time invested on this platform that you don't own, where it's just you shouting into the void about how great you are. I think if people took a step back and took even 10% of the attention they focus on social media to promoting themselves to media, to actual media outlets like print, digital, TV shows, whether it's local, regional, national, international, they would see such an uptick in attention, in business, in sales, in their authority. People would ask them to speak. Your book deals would probably be getting closed faster. Your sales would definitely be through the roof. And I think too many people just don't realize when you talk about yourself on a platform, it's just you talking about yourself. When a reputable media outlet confirms what you've been saying that you're an expert in, it boosts your visibility so much higher. It propels you forward years, if not decades, and it gets you to your goals so much faster. And so I think waiting is a huge problem. They wait till they think they're big enough, like we touched on before, or they're spending so much time on their energy on the things that don't matter, like social media and posting, when they could be focused on simple, basic promotions via public relations channel or the media, and it would make a huge
For
difference.
sure, for sure. And I love that you mentioned in the sense of, we aren't bashing social media, but it's the complexity of that people have a tendency, and it's again this whole upper part where you're looking and comparing yourself to somebody that has 600K plus followers, and their engagement rate is probably a lot higher at some point, and it takes time to get there. Nobody realizes the X amount of years of the build out. It's not just I flip the switch, I open up and create an account on Instagram, and all of a sudden overnight I have 600 followers.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really the buildup and the work that it takes, versus I think with what you're talking about, it can be really empowering in such a short period of time.
It can, and the tenets are the same. Public relations hasn't changed since the dawn of public relations. It is the same 12 steps to get yourself noticed as it was the day P.T. Barnum created public relations to promote his circus, right? Meta will change like no one's going to gaslight you like Meta gaslights you about social media. They're going to change the image size 3 times in the course of this interview that we're doing.
Yeah.
right? So everything's different, everything's changing. You have to jump through new hoops every single day. You don't have to jump through new hoops every single day if you want to be featured on your local television station. It's having a story, pitching it to the right person at the TV station. Then you go in and get to talk about the cool thing you know, or the cool product you have, or the business, or your book, stuff like that. No one's going to change, make it hard, tell you got to dance, that sort of thing, like, unless dancing is your
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
But, right. It's very, very simple to get yourself featured in the local press, and getting yourself featured in any press is what's going to move your business, your goals, your dreams forward.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. So let's talk a little bit about, the knowing the signals in terms of, is somebody ready? So when you evaluate a founder's press readiness, what's the signals that tells you this is the story worth telling?
Well, first they need to know what their goal is, because there's no point in putting yourself out there and driving attention to your business or brand if you don't know what the end game is for you. If you don't know what the goal is, like, you want to sell this product or service, you want to promote this book, you want to highlight X, Y, or Z, you've done creative something awesome, you need to get the word out there. Like, you have to have the goal first. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to audit you across every platform. I'm going to Google and search you like the FBI would search you, to figure out everything you say across every channel. Did you have old tweets that were bad in 1997? Maybe we should talk about those. But the reality of the situation is, most people, they just don't, what they have on their personal profile doesn't match their business profile. What they say on their LinkedIn doesn't match their website. And it's having all those ducks in a row. So it's having a goal, then it's having uniform communications throughout, and then it's just setting a strategy for them. It really is those three simple tenets to get people started.
I love that. It's the simplicity. And
Mhm.
what's the signal that tells you that somebody is not ready yet?
None of those things are in order. They don't know who their audience is. They don't know what their goal is. They're not interested in getting their messaging across one platform. But, the biggest red flag for me overall is, there's people who want to be famous just to be famous, which is great. Those are not my people. I can't serve you. If you just want to be on reality TV, go be on reality TV. Godspeed. I hope you achieve everything that you've ever wanted. Um, my clients, the people that I want to serve, they come from a place of service. They have a product or a service. They don't necessarily want to be famous themselves. They'll step in front of the camera, they'll do the interview, but it's the message or the product or the service or the solution that they truly want to put out there. Those are the people that I can help. Those are the people that benefit the most from public
Hmm.
relations.
I love that, because I think when it becomes the message, that they're pushing, it supersedes anything else, and it really just has a what's the word I'm looking for? Just like a domino effect in terms of a wildfire, and in terms of
Yes.
how it will grow. What is
Yep.
something that someone can instantly fix to become more pitch ready?
Well, first of all, like we've talk about yourself and your business, your brand, the same way across every single platform. Take an hour this week and just make sure that everything's aligned. If anything updates, you launch something new, you have a new book coming out. First of all, let everyone know when the new book is coming out, but also make sure it's the same across every single platform, uniform. If your messaging is all in a line, then start Googling yourself or Googling your industry. Figure out what questions or curiosities people have about what you're doing, or the subject of your book, or the things you want to speak on. Put that into Google, and then across the top of the tab where it says images, all shopping, there's going to be a news tab. Click that news tab. It's going to show you every single outlet, every single reporter that's writing about the area of expertise you're an expert in, or that your audience cares about. And you can start building a media list from there. And once you have that media list, it's simple. You can use tools like Muckrake or Rocket Reach, or Google again. You can even go to Barnes and Noble magazine section, open up the magazine, look at the masthead, figure out who's writing about your area of expertise and who you need to contact, and then start pitching them. So right there, you have figured out what your goal is, you have uniform messaging, you know what people are interested in learning about and what they're writing about, plus who those people and outlets are that are writing about it. You've just started your basic PR plan, what you want to do, what your messaging should be, and who you need to pitch. And the next thing is you just need to pitch them.
Yeah, yeah, and I like all these different steps that somebody can take, sort of the DIY versus hiring a pro, and I do want to get into that. But one thing I was going to remember, that I remembered just now, and I wanted to bring up again, was I love that you mentioned social media also is a platform that you don't own. And what I love to say in marketing is that, social media is something that you're renting versus when you own, which is your email marketing, is your email list. So, love that you're bringing that piece up as well, and really connecting the dots between, PR and marketing, because it really is this synchronicity between the two. So I wanted to make sure that the listeners, really think about the variety of different platforms, because really it is every effort that you do is building your list to sell to your list.
Yeah, building your list to sell to your list. And if you're gonna talk about something where you're an expert in it, if I'm gonna talk about something on this podcast, I want it to live on this podcast. I
Yes.
want it to reach your audience, my audience, have the backlinks to my website, but I'm also gonna put tips on my website in a blog fashion or some other fashion so they can also find more information on my website, right?
Absolutely.
Because you own your podcast and your audience, but I also want to have the same information on my website that I own for my audience, that sort of thing. And I think people forget that from time to time. You don't, whatever you post on Substack, whatever you post on Instagram might be revolutionary, might get a ton of likes, might have a bunch of people following it. If they shut down tomorrow, all of that disappears and you don't have that intellectual property anymore.
Hmm.
So you should also make sure that it's housed on your website, in your email list, on the things that you do own.
You say silence isn't a strategy. I want to dig into that. How can entrepreneurs get visibility without feeling pushy or self promotional?
Sure. I think it's a mindset shift, right? So many of us were raised to be seen and not heard. So many of us were told if we speak up, it's being boasting or bragging. But then a lot of us on the other end, we think that our work is going to speak for ourselves. If I just work hard, if I just do great work, if I just please all these clients, everyone's going to know about it. And that's not true. Silence can be a great strategy when you don't need to jump into a crisis or a situation that's not yours, right? Like you don't need to step your toe in someone else's mess. But at the same time, if you have a book, if you want to be a public speaker, if you have a small business, if you want to promote a service or an offering, you have to step into the spotlight and tell people why it's great, why they should buy it, why they need it, what solution you're providing. And I think if you come at it not from a, oh, I want to be famous, look at me, here I am on all these podcasts, but you come at it from a, I'm coming from a place of service. I want you to know these things because I truly think they're going to help you achieve your dreams, get the attention your business deserves. All that hard work you're putting in, I want it to lead to monetary development, but also help the people that you want to serve. I think if you come at it from a place of service, it changes the game for you. The silence is because people are insecure. They don't want to be judged or they don't think they're ready to be an expert. And it's just in your mind. If you've already created the product, if you've already created the service, if you've already written the book or on your way to writing the book, you are the expert. Get out there and promote yourself because someone else who doesn't even know a quarter of what you know is already shouting from the rooftops that they're an expert, and you don't want that bad information out there.
Yes, yes, totally. And you don't you it's like I always say when I follow a variety of influencers, some of the stuff I love that they do, but let's say for example I'm following a marketing influencer and all of a sudden she starts talking about the variety of different vitamins she's taking. You have no
Mhm.
business in talking about your vitamins, honey, because like you're not a health coach. You're a marketing
Right,
expert. Stay in your lane, right? And I think that there is
right.
so much convoluted messaging that's out there where all of a sudden it's because they've grown to X amount, maybe 1+ million followers, and everybody wants to know about everything that they do. Stick to what you know and what your industry is, because once you step out of that, it starts to get really confusing for a lot of people.
Right. Like I'm not going to come on here and tell you about what you should do for nutrition. Like I eat like an unsupervised toddler. I am not the expert in that area, but I can tell you how to promote your business. And it's just important to stay in your lane, you
I
know?
agree. I agree. So let's talk a little bit about how you do PR, KJ, in the sense of, do it yourself versus hiring a pro, because you have a variety of different packages that somebody can buy into. And I love this because this is a new shift, and not necessarily new as in yesterday, but it is a new wave in terms of how PR agencies are moving. And what I do want to add on to that is sometimes a lot of folks get worried about the spend in marketing because they feel that the tracking and measuring their key performance indicators are a little bit tough. So let's talk about your packaging from DIY to hiring you fully, and how does somebody track the spend that they're putting in?
Sure. Well, I think PR has gone out of its way to keep itself very smoke and mirrors. It's an art, not a science. I can pitch a story to you tomorrow and we can track the backlinks and we can see the growth. the percentage, the sales, that sort of thing. But sometimes it's about visibility, and we need the repetition and a few press hits to get that. Whereas if you post it on social media tomorrow, they could tell you how many followers looked at this, how many whatever, like that sort of thing. So I don't think PR has those traditional metrics or vanity metrics that people are used to. And I think I think PR has done itself a disservice by not having that measurement in place. I think that's a huge caveat to the discussion. For me, I'm finding that people think PR is expensive. You have to be famous. You have to be making so much money. And it is. If you want to hire a huge PR agency out of Manhattan, you're spending tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars a month to have a group of people work on what you're doing. Like Hollywood films, they're spending a lot of money to do all that promotion. You see them everywhere for a reason, because they have so many people working on things. But for regular people, you don't need something like that. I've been doing this for almost 3 decades. I could charge $10,000, $20,000 a month for my services. And I choose not to, because I feel like the best stories are from those startups. They're from the people who are just getting started with their business or their idea, or they just are, the app is just coming to fruition. They're not ready for what's next, to the 6 or 7 figures. And I don't want to price those people out of telling their story, because I think it's important. And so I work with people on a mentoring basis, where we hop on a few phone calls a month. You can pick my brain. We can go over pitches. I can give you information, and then you go do the heavy lifting. It's maybe $650 a month for my mentoring services. My most popular package is for people who just need the guidance. Like, how do I think and talk about my brand? What should my strategy be? And so I offer what I call a strategy session. It's kind of a VIP day where I give you some forms. You fill them out, you get back to me. We either meet for 2 hours in person or over a Zoom call, kind of like this. I ask you a variety of questions, and then I go away. Within a week's time, you have a 50 plus page document that walks you through the entire next year of how you need to think, talk, act, pitch, and who to pitch for your business. That's going to run you maybe $2,500. From there, I can work with you to do all the promotion. You can do all the promotion yourself. Or you can hire a VA or an intern or someone else on your team to just go and do all the heavy lifting, because you'll have a set strategy, a plan you can always go back to, that you can adapt and can be nimble. And I mean, I've had clients that have used theirs for 3+ years, because they're just, the cycle feeds itself. It's the same goals, the same plan, clear on everything, rinse, repeat. I also know that a lot of us are busy doing all the things that we're doing. We want someone to do something for us. And so I offer full service PR management. It's $3,500 a month for me to do literally everything to promote your business for you. I'm available 24/7, because I know that's how the news cycle works, and that's how businesses run and how people are operating. And so for a minimum of 3 months, we have a $3,500 a month contract, and I do all the heavy lifting, all the promotions. I get you set up, and my people get press.
I like it. Let's talk a little bit about the introduction to, obviously AI is, the one conversation that everybody wants to talk about. But what are you specifically, and how are you specifically working with AI to support your clients from the standpoint of how you work with PR, and how is that shifting your model in terms of outreach and so on?
I think that AI is great in that it gives some people confidence. I feel about AI like I do social media. Good for some things, icky for other things. I'm not worried that AI is ever going to replace public relations. I don't think it's ever going to replace authors or copywriters or marketers or truly anything. AI is great for like deep research and helping you pick your brain and figuring out maybe who your target audience is or what your target audience wants to know more about. I think that's what AI is great for. What AI is not great for is, I wouldn't plug in tomorrow, hey, AI, this is my goal, write a PR plan for me. Because the thing that AI isn't, it's a robot, right? So it's a computer program. It takes the storytelling and the humanity out of everything. And that's the basis for public relations. That's a basic human connection that they want to see on the news. People want to hear on podcasts. You want to read about in books. AI can't do that. And so I think it's great for research. I think people should definitely use it when they're researching who their audience is, what they should talk about, that sort of thing. But I don't think it's ever going to replace a basic human helping tell you like, no, here's what is going to resonate with other human beings. Here's what people want to hear about. Here's how you should write, think, and talk about your business.
Tell us a little bit about your book that you have coming out in January of this coming year.
Sure. My book is called Pitch Worthy. It comes out January 13th on Amazon, anywhere books are sold. But it's basically half pep talk from a hype girl that just wants to see you succeed. Because I think stepping into the spotlight, promoting yourself, it comes with insecurities. It comes from, ugh, what are people going to think? What are they going to say? How are they going to judge me? We don't have time for that. We're promoting what we're passionate about. It's time we step up and own that. So Pitch Worthy is half hype girl pep talk, and the other half is the basic tenets of PR, from what PR is to how you find your audience to how you find your brand words and how you talk about your business, all the way to handling the trolls or negative Yelp reviews, because they just come with a time. And so it walks you through, it's a handbook that walks you through having a publicist in your pocket.
I love that. Having a publicist in your pocket. That's fantastic. KJ, this has been wonderful in terms of digging into the world of PR, especially from the standpoint of supporting small business owners. And I love the offering that you have on the table to really get somebody, really get their feet wet in terms of how do I navigate this world that is very unfamiliar to me, and I only know about it based on what media has been pushing. So thank you for that, and thank you for everything that you do. Before we let you go, as we do with every audience, we like to do a one word, one habit, one myth fire round question. So whatever comes to mind, just shoot away. If
Sure,
you
sure.
had to choose one word that defines successfully visibility today, what would it be?
It'd be clarity. You need to know exactly what you're doing, exactly who you're serving, and exactly how you want to promote it. If you're clear on those things, you can be anywhere tomorrow.
Yes, I think if there is one word that we would walk away from this conversation, it really is clarity, because everything that we've spoken about is getting clear about your messaging, who you're reaching, and it kept going back to that. So I appreciate that. What is one weekly habit any founder can adopt to stay consistently visible?
Oh, Friday review and edit. So for 15 minutes every Friday, I sit down and I think about what went well for the week, what went according to plan, what didn't go according to plan, and what I need to do next week to stay on track for what my goals are. And that 15 minutes every Friday is non-negotiable for me because it helps me know that I'm truly staying the course for what my goal is, but it also reminds me of why I'm doing what I'm doing. Some weeks can hit you like a tidal wave, and some weeks feel like you're just soaring into space. And I think it's important in those ebbs and flows to be like, okay, Monday was great. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, not so great. But next week is a new week to try, and I'm still going towards my goal. This is the end goal. So the 15-minute review and edit, highly
I
recommend.
love that. I also had somebody else on my podcast the other day where they have brainstorm Friday or creative Fridays where they just brainstorm a little bit. They are a product company, and it just helps them understand where can they get more visibility, more really clarity, more creativity around what they're doing, how they present themselves in the market. So I think reserving any type of time within the week, and it seems that Fridays is a good nugget for everybody, is really great to just organize yourselves in preparation to understanding the week and then getting into next week. And I love that you say
Yeah.
weeks flow, because some weeks feel crazy, some weeks feel like you're
Yes.
cruising, and other weeks just feel phenomenal. So it's just different week over week, day over day.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
What's is the biggest myth about PR that you wish would disappear forever?
That it's expensive or you have to wait till you're famous. I mean, we've talked about it numerous times today. It's not. PR is the easiest free way for you to get the word out about the thing you're passionate about. It's about you talking about your goals, your hopes, your dreams, what you've put your blood, sweat, and tears into with like minded people, and finding those like minded people so they can buy your service, your product, your book, whatever it is you have to offer. And so I wish more people would step into the spotlight and shout about what they're passionate about. Because really, you're just two people nerding out about the thing you love most.
I love it. KJ, thank you. This has been great. Appreciate your time on the
Thank
pod.
you. Thank you for having me.